Welcome, Jet fans, to the Jets Life podcast. I am your host, Anthony. We'll be joined shortly by Dom for his weekly spot on our channel. He'll be joining up shortly. There's been an evening of weird schedules. Dane also will be joining the show. This from the DayngerZone will also be joining the show. He's also having some schedule difficulties. He'll be tuning in around 8:40. Is my hope. He's in a different time zone, so I'm not sure if he was talking 8:40 my time or his time. If it's his time, that's way too late for all of us. But let's jump right into it. Don will be joining here with the next 20, 30 minutes or so. So it'll be just me for the first half hour. So any questions, obviously, feel free to enter those questions into the chat. And I'll start off by giving a recap of what was a long weekend. If you're pro tank or just obviously for this weekend, didn't have to root for or against the Jets this week. It was a pretty straightforward weekend where you were just watching other teams play, and it was actually a fun, action-packed weekend of football. A lot of close games, a lot of games decided with 2 minutes left in the game. A few games that would have had some level of intrigue from the Jets draft positioning standpoint. And it's, if you're, again, someone looking at the tanking record, tank positions and stuff like that, the Jets did not have a good weekend as a result of this week. Basically every result that we want to see happen didn't happen. Maybe the only result you could really look at and say, okay, that maybe fell in the Jets' favor was the Dolphins' loss. Other than that, basically every team picking ahead of the Dolphins or around the Dolphins pick all lost. So you look at it, it's mostly the same from the week before. No change in positioning. The Jets are picking 5 heading into last week's games. They're picking 5 heading into next week's games. So no change in draft positioning. At the end of the day, you know, I still see the Jets winning a couple of games this year. I don't know where they're going to be. You look at the Saints as probably a winnable game. You look at the Dolphins, although they're playing hot right now, just beating the Bills a couple weeks ago, a win in Madrid last week. They're kind of rolling a little bit, but I still see that as a winnable game. It's a divisional game. Jets are at home. The likelihood, obviously, as the Dolphins keep building off of a few wins in a row, maybe that win percentage goes down a little bit. But overall, you're looking at what the Dolphins are doing so far. They are moving in the right direction. You'd like to see his coaching staff for the Jets move in the right direction as well. The first handful of games were not great from a coaching standpoint. The next batch of games, next handful of games, was a little bit better. You'd like to see things move in a better direction for these next few games here. Got Athlete Prodzite, probably butchering that. Hello, Steelers fan here, but still have hope for the Jets. Yeah, I mean, the hope is not in this season, but the hope is that, they're moving things in the right direction. They have a lot of first-round picks over the next few years. My hope is that, moving into the rest of the season, we get a little glimmer of what this coaching staff can be, and hopefully it's something that we can build off of. Because at the end of the day, this league is about picking the right quarterback. But as you can see with the Patriots, what they've accomplished this year, and granted Drake May was a rookie in his first year. You can pick the right quarterback, but you still need to have the right coach. So this really is an evaluation of what Darren Muji and what the head coach Aaron Glenn can be for the rest of the way, to make sure you have the right infrastructure in place for a rookie quarterback. They have the pieces on offense mostly. I think they still need obviously some tinkering in that aspect, but they have most of the pieces you would want to support a quarterback. The defense will need a lot of work, but that's something that you can attack in free agency, middle round picks, try and bring in some talent in that area. But the offense is usually the area that you just really want to kind of work on. Athlete prods. Okay, got it. Yeah, and obviously, hit on the head. Got to make a good decision with all those picks. There's so many of them that the Jets can actually kind of get away with missing on a couple because no one's ever going to bat 1,000. It's just not the way it works. There's going to be busts in the draft, but you just can't do what previous regimes have done time and time again. Is you can't swing and miss as frequently as the Jets have done in the past. And you know what? I mean, I got to give Joe Douglas a little bit of credit. He did a good job in the early rounds of the draft. Where he stunk and where he was terrible was he just did not – he was basically unable to do it in the middle rounds. I think, there's a couple players that received second contracts that were picked on day 3. You would like to see more players that just being able to contribute, be good, solid special teams players, maybe eventually develop into starting caliber players. But as of right now, the Jets are just they're a team that has a lot of holes, and obviously that's a result of what the previous regimes were not able to do. But I digress here. We're moving into off-season talk, which I'm happy to talk about. That's topic of conversation. Obviously, the Jets are in a lost season, and it's hard to kind of dissect week to week, game by game, without obviously looking towards the future. That's really all the Jets have at this point in time. It's where are we going to be in the draft, and can we pick up the right players in this upcoming draft? And obviously, 2027 is going to be a huge draft for us. 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick. That's obviously the area where you're looking for the Jets to strike gold on. But I'll just do a little bit of a quick recap, and I'm trying to save as much of it for when Dom shows up here. I did a little bit of a game recap leading up to following the Patriots game. I did do a little bit of a recap there on Friday, so not too much to digest into that game again. But fact of the matter is, Justin Fields just it was on national television. It's everyone got to see it. He's a quarterback that's missing something. He's missing it between the ears is probably the biggest thing. Doesn't have the confidence, and basically after that Cincinnati game, basically said it out there. He basically was lost. That game was a big one for his confidence. He was able to go out there and perform. Granted, it was against a very poor defense, and that's been Justin Fields this season. When he goes up against a poor defense, he's able to do a few things. He can steal a win, and that's been him throughout his career. It's just far too many times Justin Fields has a good game followed up by multiple bad games. There's a big reason why the Bears were picking high in the draft when he was the quarterback there. Say what you want about the team around him. It wasn't perfect. The Bears were a team that were, a losing team for quite some time before he arrived. But nonetheless, he comes in to the Jets, goes to Pittsburgh. And, I mean, Pittsburgh was doing solid, 4-2 record while he was there. But even Pittsburgh saw it. We have 4 wins, but we're missing something. There's something missing here. Let's move over to Russell Wilson. Pittsburgh moves over to Russell Wilson, and granted, the season didn't go the way they had hoped. But for head coach and Mike Tomlin, you got to respect him. He's been obviously a great coach for a very, very long time. For him to make that decision, you got to assume there was just something missing with Justin Fields. There's a lot of reports out there that the Pittsburgh Steelers were right in the neighborhood of a contract offer for Justin Fields. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. If that were the case, why'd they bench him? I mean, I guess you say it wasn't technically a benching because he was only in there because Russell Wilson got injured. But they say sometimes a player gets injured, a player steps up and can steal the job. He didn't steal the job. Russell Wilson was starting by week 7, so is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I had hope. Obviously, hope Justin Fields was able to do something with this season, and unfortunately, 5 games of under 60 or fewer yards. Oh, sorry, 5 games of under 120 yards passing. This is 2025, man. This is the NFL. You can't have that out of the quarterback position. 5 starts this season with 15 or fewer completions. These are like Madden defensive statistical outputs that you can kind of do to an opposing quarterback, and NFL teams are doing that on a week-to-week basis against Justin Fields. The change was necessary. This is a perfect time for it because, for the rest of the season, for the rest of the Jets season, it's about evaluation. It's about evaluating everything from top to bottom on this roster, in the building, coaching staff, etc. It's really just about, okay, we've brought in a number of players through free agency, through trades, a couple of wide receivers that had been picked in the second round and in back-to-back drafts, in Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie. And when a quarterback isn't throwing the ball to them, it's hard to evaluate. Adonai Mitchell obviously did not have the greatest game in his first start with the Jets. Multiple drops, one on a deep pass that really would have been a game-flipping type of play. I forget the exact timing of it. I don't know if it was, I feel like the Patriots were up 14-7 at that point in time. You make that big catch. You're talking about the Jets going into Patriots territory. I think that would have put them like right around the 20, 30-yard line, somewhere in that range. And that was a couple drives prior where the Jets were able to run the football effectively and punch it in for an opening touchdown. Maybe that's a situation where you get into Patriots territory. You can go back to that game plan and try and punch it in with a shortened field. Just couldn't see it. Didn't get an evaluation. And, say what you want about that, but that was an Adonai Mitchell play. That was a nice pass by Justin Fields. Could it have been better? Could he have led him a little bit more? You can critique every play. You can hope for perfection. But at the end of the day, Adonai Mitchell's getting paid millions of dollars to make catches too. It wasn't a perfect pass, but he's got to make that one, and I think he would agree to that as well. Ball hits your hands, make the freaking catch. Beautiful route. Able to get open deep on Christian Gonzalez, one of, argue what you want, probably one of the top 10 corners in the NFL, if not higher. But beat him a few times on routes. That's promising from Adonai Mitchell. But you got to, it's not about getting open. It's about getting open and making the catch and finishing the play. Got half it done. Wasn't able to finish the play, but that's a promising aspect of his game moving forward. Can he continue to build off of that? Can he start putting together a few weeks where he's making those catches and making big plays that way? And this is a good game for it with Tyrod Taylor, who's if he has a superpower, it's his deep ball. So maybe it's a situation where we're able to see Tyrod Taylor kind of put his arm on showcase, get the ball out there, because he's probably not going to be able to run the football effectively. I don't know what held him out of that Cincinnati game, but I would assume it's probably still that leg injury that kind of impacted him. And chances are he hasn't played since because it was still kind of a lingering issue. Because I don't think it was a situation where Jets rolled with Fields because they felt like he was the guy to go with. I think it was an issue where maybe Tyrod just was not ready to play yet. Now he's ready, but to what degree? It's getting to a point where I think his coaching staff understands that they're just desperate for evaluating the quarterback or evaluating this offense as a whole. But yeah, Adonai Mitchell, few critical drops in this game. Jarvis Brownlee, I know he's gotten a lot of praise in the early stages of after the trade. I liked what I saw of him. I like what he brings to the table. He's had a tough few weeks. Listen, this guy was a late round pick, brought in for his physicality, brought in for his sticky coverage. But you have to understand too that, when he was with Tennessee, a big thing, based from the Tennessee fans that I identified, they were definitely angry with the loss of him, but also, kind of a common theme of what you heard about him was, he drew a lot of penalties. That's part of his game. He's gonna draw a lot of penalties. He's very sticky in coverage, gets hands on the receivers. A similar issue that the Jets had with Sauce for quite some time. He put his hands on the receivers, flags get thrown. That's an issue of Brownlee's game. Obviously, his coaching staff has to, figure out the flaw there. Aaron Glenn, former DB, needs to, work with him. Steve Wilkes, former defensive backs coach, needs to, get into his head, figure out what's going on there, and maybe it's something they can work with. But for the investment that we got, that it cost us to bring in Brownlee, I'm not going to sit here and be overly critical of him on a day-to-day basis. You want to see him do better. You want to see more of what we saw in his first few starts with the team. Last few starts have just been difficult. It's been rough for him, and he's taken ownership of it. He went on social media after the Browns game. Yeah, after the Browns game, he went on social media and was, critical of himself. And that's what you want to see out of these players. You don't want to see them, identifying that they're, their flaws, identifying that they have areas to improve. This is, a far cry of what was basically the norm with the organization years prior. There was always excuses for why things weren't going the way that they wanted them to go. And, the excuses kind of became a problem. It's, what was me? Everyone's, perfect on the locker room. Yeah, well, you're losing a lot of games. So I don't know what to tell you there. What is going on here? Tony Adams. So the Jets continue to go through the season by not taking the football away from the other team. This is a major problem, obviously. The Jets offense just isn't doing enough on a consistent basis with Justin Fields for them to be able to take wins away from their opponents. There will be a game this year. I don't know when. I feel it's going to happen at some point in time, but there will be a game that sometime this season where the Jets, take the football away numerous times and are able to control it. Maybe it's against the Saints, maybe it's against, I don't know. But there will be a game that it comes that they're able to take the football away from their opponent multiple times. And, it's hard to imagine right now that it's been 10 games and they have one takeaway, which apparently is an NFL record. Jets are breaking records this year, people. And it's kind of a little bit embarrassing that, their chance at the first interception on the season was a pass broken up. The interception was broken up by a player of his own team. Sticker's had in his hands, probably makes the catch, completes the catch. Tony Adams breaks it up. It's kind of one thing after another with this team. Sometimes, like when it rains, it pours, and this team just does not want to take the football away, it seems like. Gotta give credit to Drake May in this game. He just stood in there and played quarterback to an elite level. Carved up the secondary. Granted, there were players wide open all day long. I think that's an issue, obviously, when you lose your top corner and you're down to your third corner on the outside, because obviously Sauce with the trade, AZ Thomas out for this game with a concussion. They're getting thin at corner. It's a big problem. Hopefully AZ Thomas can come back either this week or next week. Not sure what the injury report is saying at this point. It's still Tuesday, so no injury report's been announced yet, but hopefully practice this week. Hopefully kind of moves in the right direction to start, because again, this is all about evaluation. It's evaluating everybody on offense, everybody on defense. especially younger players. AZ Thomas, the guy that the Jets would really like to get a good eye on to see if that's a position of need going into this regime's second season. I would assume they have some faith in him. I don't think you would trade away Sauce Gardner if you didn't think that there was some level of ability there for a guy that you picked in the third round. But not awesome that he's kind of missing his first few games where he has an opportunity to start. But looked good against Cincinnati, played some good coverage against T. Higgins, except for that touchdown he gave up. And Jamar Chase, where Chase had a bunch of catches, but was mostly held in check. But that's a player you'd like to see going in there. But Drake May, again, got to give him credit, just carved up this defense from start to finish. I would say that the final scoreline was a little bit more like closer than the game felt. Felt like the Patriots operated this game in their fashion from start to finish. Control the football, move the ball in between the 20s with high precision. Obviously, held to a few field goals, missed a field goal, 3 touchdowns, all by Travion Henderson. But Drake May, he's an MVP caliber player, and he had an MVP caliber performance against a poor defense that obviously missing a lot of players. I think this is the first game, if you're a Jet fan, that you've felt the impact of the Quinnen Williams trade, because a big factor in this game was the edge players, at least when Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson were on the field, were able to kind of, get around the tackles. Good blocking, obviously. They didn't just let them kind of zoom past them, but they gave them a wide angle to try and get around them. Drake May able to step up in the pocket on numerous occasions and deliver the football. Now, I don't know if Quinnen Williams is playing this game that Drake May is going to be as willing to step up in the pocket in that aspect, because your assumption is Quinnen's going to be getting pushed in the pocket, and obviously those step ups aren't going to result in just obvious amount of space to make his reads and complete the football. But nonetheless, it's the situation the Jets are dealing with in this game. Just obviously way too much time in the pocket for Drake May for him to be able to take advantage of a poor defense. Another area that obviously we're going to be dissecting as much as we can for the Jets moving forward, and you got to critique every area. You got to look at this coaching staff from top to bottom. It's going to be a real indicator of what this team can be moving forward. But the coaching staff had done a pretty decent job over the last few weeks of keeping those penalties down. In this game, not so much. 7 penalties, 6 yards. They didn't have any huge penalties, no high impact penalties, but there was a possession where I feel like there was a couple third downs in one possession that they were able to kind of extend drives. Probably the biggest penalty I thought was kind of maybe a little nitpicky by the refs was Brownlee had a roughing call on him on it was a short pass. I think it was on a second down, would have brought third down, made a tackle, and maybe it was a little late. My issue with that call was not so much that they drew the flag, but the fact they drew the flag after such a long pause. I don't know. It just seemed kind of lame from that refereeing crew. It just, I don't know. It seemed like they were feeding into the reaction of the crowd as opposed to, making a call that they stood behind and they felt was really the case. We see it all the time. Couple seconds after the whistle, a player finishing a tackle, and I think that's really all it was. I don't think it was egregious. I don't think he I don't think what he did warranted a roughing call. So maybe take that one away. But there was a few instances where there was a 12 men on the field after a TV timeout type of situation. Those are the things is it on the head coach, is it on defense coordinator? I don't know. But you just can't have those type of situations where, following a timeout, your operations are off. Like you have too many guys on the field. That's just you can't do that. Other than that, I mean, offensive line with another pretty solid performance. Sorry, struggling here. The offensive line with another solid performance. This is Patriots run defense it's been pretty solid all season long. It's not allowed 50-yard rushers. I think they did against Tampa. They allowed Tucker to go over 50 yards. Or Irving, I think it was Tucker, to go over 50 yards. Well, the Jets are able to get Brees Hall over 50 yards in this game. For the Jets to be able to pull off any sort of upset or anything like that, it would have required Brees to get closer to 125, maybe even 150, for something like that to be possible. But he's able to get up to around 60 yards. Fields also with a 50-yard rushing game. Listen, he was solid with his legs. I kind of wish the Jets would have stuck with that play calling a little bit. Doesn't really make much sense. And then after the fact they're saying, we're trying to protect Fields, can't play a game, which I understand. You can't play a game where he's out there getting hit on a consistent basis. But what else does he have? Putting him out there, trying to get him to throw the football isn't working either. And granted, there was a lot of drops in this game. I do fully understand that. The Jets are not 2-8 because of Justin Fields. They could have more wins with better quarterback play, sure. But it's not like you're flipping the script from 2-8 to like 7-3, 8-2. If you have mediocre quarterback play, I think it requires a little bit more than that for this team to, kind of really take that next step, which is why picking a quarterback in this draft is almost kind of imperative for this coaching staff. I'm very interested in that decision making. There's a lot out there of can the Jets wait until 2027 to pick a quarterback? I just can't see that being realistic. I need to know who's starting at quarterback for. I need to know who's starting at quarterback for the Jets in 2026. And there's not many options out there in free agency. Are you going to trade away picks for Mac Jones? I mean, won't cost you much, 3rd and 5th round pick, but we're really going down that route, like a Mac Jones type of season. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just he's doing well under Shanahan. Maybe, it's a situation where, Darnold went to Shanahan, then he went to Minnesota, promising season. Seemed to turn his career around, but he went from Shanahan to O'Connell. Now he's with Kubiak, so he's got some good coaching around him from an offensive play caller standpoint. I'm not anti-Engstrand, but obviously a major downgrade going from Shanahan to Engstrand. But we've seen what Mac Jones can be in this league. I don't know. That's not appealing. Kyler Murray, I don't. He'd be better than what we've had in a long time, but that's really just not saying enough. I mean, that's not saying much at all for Kyler Murray to be the quarterback. And listen, I'd take it if it was a situation where he gets released from Arizona, he's a free agent. That's a situation I would explore, obviously, but I'm not trading away picks for Kyler Murray to come here. Again, if it's a situation similar to what Mac Jones is going through, maybe. I just can't see a situation where Arizona, if they're trading him, trades him for, basically nothing. They're kind of in a situation where, if they're going to get rid of him, who's their quarterback next year? Similar situation what the Jets have. So I just don't see Arizona trading Kyler Murray. And I don't see the Jets with this regime really kind of wanting a quarterback that's been known for, not putting in the effort during the week through practice, through whatever have you. So it's a little bit of a concern for me, obviously, there with the whole Kyler Murray situation. The Jets need to figure something out. Is it a guy like Mariota? I want nothing to do with that. The list of free agent quarterback options. It's I don't know. It's tough. Then you look at situations like a C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, and my biggest question there for any of those options is why would the Bengals trade Joe Burrow? Why would Houston trade C.J. Stroud? I understand Burrow has not had the greatest injury history. That's one thing, but he brought into a Super Bowl in his second season. They signed Jamar Chase. They signed T. Higgins, these elite wide receivers on the outside, because they wanted this offense to kind of reach a top potential with their elite quarterback. Kind of what happens with your formula when you trade away Joe Burrow. Kind of a weird situation there, obviously. So I don't see that happening. Maybe it's something like as things progress, they want to change. I just don't see it. I just don't see them trading away they stuck behind Andy Dalton for it felt like 15 years. They did trade Carson Palmer, but I forgot the story with Carson Palmer. I think he kind of wanted out of there. Joe Burrow doesn't give me the inkling that he wants out. I don't see that being an issue. I mean, they brought in his buddy from LSU to play wide receiver. They re-signed T. Higgins. That offensive line is abysmal. That defense is abysmal. Maybe it's something there. I don't know. I just don't see a situation where the Jets are able to, or not even the Jets aren't able, because the Jets have 5 first-round picks. They're able to be in every conversation if they want to. I just don't see a situation where Burrow is, being traded by the Bengals. That just doesn't make sense to me. Stroud, another situation I don't know. All these options, it's very difficult. The best scenario for the Jets is they're picking high enough in this draft, and they pick one of the two, either Ty Simpson or Fernando Mendoza. And that's the end of the story. You pick one of those two guys, and you ride with the coaching staff. Any other option, no matter who it is, it's most likely going to either, hurt in one or two ways. It's either going to hurt from a draft capital standpoint because you're going to be wasting away a lot of picks to bring in one of these top-tier guys. Or number two, it's just going to hurt because the name just isn't promising at all. I find it very difficult to believe that this coaching staff is going to be rewarded the luxury of, multiple seasons of kind of dancing at the top of the draft to look for your quarterback. I think this year they gotta, put their big boy pants on in the offseason. They've got to, and they're going to be put in a situation where they got to trade out, because when you look at the top of this draft, you got Tennessee doesn't need a quarterback, but if they're picking one or two, and you got the Saints, you got the Browns, and the Jets all within the hit the like. Dane will be joining shortly. I think he's scheduled for 8:40. So, well, he's scheduled for whenever he wants. This isn't an appointment. You join when you want to join. But yeah, the Jets can be in a situation. Ideally, the way that this draft order fall, you would love it if Tennessee and Giants were picking high, first couple of picks, because then you don't have the issue of multiple teams trading up in that spot, because it's not really, Giants aren't going quarterback, Tennessee is not going quarterback. One of those two picks could be traded, but you don't want a situation where it's Tennessee, then Cleveland, then Giants, then Saints, because then you're in a weird situation where teams going to be kind of jumping ahead of those quarterback needy teams, whether it be from one to get ahead of the 2 team, or 3 to get ahead of the 4 team if they need a quarterback. You just don't want a situation like that. With all that being said, the Jets have plenty of ammunition to be able to make a trade and get into that slot where they feel like there's a quarterback that's necessary for them. I just don't know that. I just don't know if this coaching staff gets 2 years to figure it out. Like that's really tough for me to believe that they're just going to be. Yeah, I know that like you got to look at the Giants for example. Like the Giants had like multiple years with Brian Daboll to try and figure out his quarterback, and eventually, obviously they get Jackson Dart, things look good there. But they had years with Daniel Jones, at least. And say we want about Daniel Jones when he was there, but when he played decent, it was somewhat of a promising outlook. He just missed a lot of time with injuries when he was with the Giants. But when he played, he wasn't the worst quarterback in the league. This isn't a situation like Justin Fields. Like at least when Daniel Jones played, like he was, he would give you a good game here and there. Justin Fields just doesn't do it at all. Like, Giants made the playoffs with Daniel Jones in Daboll's first year there. Hence why they had to give him a massive contract, $40 million a year after that season where they didn't fifth-year option him. They had to give him that big contract. And then, obviously, he wasn't the same player when he got the big money. We'll see what happens with the Colts. They're probably going to have to do the same situation, give him a big contract. And can they turn that big money contract into wins? Or, because you're going to start getting a situation where you have to, like, start building around him in a different way than maybe what they can normally do at this point. Dane is on his way. Keep cooking. I'm trying to cook here, man. I'm like a lonely chef here. Got no sous chef. Just Dom's late. He's much later than he said he was going to be. I'm over here riding solo at this point in time, just trying to keep everyone entertained. It's not easy, but guys, keep the comments coming. Trying to milk it as long as I can as we got our co-stars joining up here shortly. But yeah, and I think that's gonna be the first topic of conversation when Dane and or Dom show up is, let's play devil's advocate here, and the Jets are not picking top 3, not picking top 4. They're picking 5 like they are slated right now. 2 quarterback needy teams ahead of them. The hope is that maybe one of these 2 teams isn't in love with Simpson and or Fernando Mendoza. And that player just falls in our lap. But the chances are any team, and this is going to be the problem too, is, any team that's looking at the draft order, whenever you see the Jets picking, that's going to be a quarterback. Like you just know the Jets are going quarterback with that pick. Dane with a chat. Thoughts on Brownlee Jr. during Thursday Night Football? Is he a keeper or too much of a loose cannon? Listen, I think, Brownlee has upside. But, when you – and I mentioned this earlier a few moments ago, Dane went away. I mentioned this a few moments ago. The thing with Brownlee, like after the trade happened, there was a lot of people on social media from Titans fans that, didn't like the trade. He's a late round pick that played decent. But his problem when he was there was penalties. And that was also common, commentary from Titans fans that, maybe didn't get as much publication on X as much as like the angry Tennessee fans that the trade happened. But he was a player that, would get handsy in coverage, resulting in penalties, and we're seeing that firsthand now with the Jets. My hope is that this coaching staff can figure out a way to kind of get the better out of him and get those flags kind of, limited as much as possible. But sometimes you get a player and that's just his game. He's going to draw flags. He's going to be handsy in coverage. That was the issue with Sauce Gardner. He would play elite coverage, but the flag would come out his way every so often. You just got to work with that a little bit. I obviously 2 weeks in a row, Brownlee just, not great. He's got to be better. This is an evaluation period for everybody. Every single player on this roster is being evaluated because Jets are going to have a lot of ammunition this offseason, and I don't know if they're going to use it all this year. I think it's going to be a situation where they are methodical. They will use, obviously, free agency dollars in areas of need. They will use draft capital in areas of need. Primarily, I think they'll probably focus primarily on offense through the draft and maybe defense in free agency. Obviously, they're going to, they're not just going to go one way or the other in both situations. But I think if you asked me today, if they were going to use, let's say 70% of their available cap space, which is $95 million, so let's say $70 million. If they were going to use $70 million of that cap space on offense, defense, I would say it probably goes about 50 million, let's say 45 million or so on the defense side of football, and then about another 25 million on the offensive side. Probably for, guys like ABT and/or John Simpson, Myers, like to fill out the offensive line. Brees Hall, like those are the moves I think the Jets make on the offense side of the ball, like through free agency. So not really bringing guys in from external sources. And then on the defense side of the ball, I think is going to be where they're going to really kind of make big splashes. Maybe bringing in a safety like Cam Curl would be ideal. I'd even get greedy and say go with a couple of safeties in free agency if you really can. The safety position has been ignored for far too long for this team. And I'm not saying throw, $40 million of safeties, but I wouldn't be completely against, assuring that position is because having the biggest issue with this Jets defense is out the middle. It's the linebackers and it's at the safeties. Obviously, nickel, we got to evaluate what Brownlee could be the rest of the season, but the safety position and linebacker positions has been an issue this season. You're going to probably lose Quincy in free agency, so unless you're you have to put some resources there. You're going to have to fill out the depth on this defensive line, edge primarily. You also need to bring in a couple of defensive tackles as well to fill out this roster. But I think that's the formula in my eyes. Is if you're going to use $70 million in cap space, it's probably going to be a lot on defense, and then mostly to retain your players on offense. And then through the draft, I think, again, got the four picks in the first two rounds. I would say you probably go. You really could go 2-2 offense, defense, but I think if you're picking a quarterback one or with your first pick, you kind of have to go wide receiver with that second first round pick. The Jets were going to be in a good spot with that second first round pick because you're going to be in the bottom of that first round, and there's some good big wide receivers in the top of the second round, or like slated to be in the top of the second round. Denzel Boston, I think, goes a little higher than we would like, whatever. But an ideal matchup, like if the Jets were going to get a guy like from Fernando Mendoza with their first pick to be their quarterback, Elijah Surratt, his college teammate, would be a nice little pairing on day two. Chris Bell would be an interesting and intriguing prospect in the second round. The guy from Rutgers, I forget, I'm losing his name, would be a good option on day two as well. So you could technically kind of go either way with the second of your first round picks, second of your first round picks. Yeah, I did say it right. Never mind. So hard to kind of dissect the fact multiple first round picks. But then one of your day two picks, if not both, need to be, for betterment of the offense. So that's kind of my expectation for what the offseason would look like from a grand scope of things. Obviously, it depends on how things shake out. Do they somehow pull a trigger on a trade for a wide receiver? That's obviously changes your outlook for the draft, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. I don't think this is a season for a move like that either. I think this is a season where it's really just going to be stay methodical, stay smart. That's why I'm not one to like root for losses and stuff like that. But I think it makes just so much more it makes this rebuild so much easier if you don't have to waste ammunition to trade up for a quarterback. Because if the Jets are not picking top 2 or 3, they're likely going to have to trade up for a quarterback and use probably some significant assets to make that happen. If they're picking top 3 and they'd you had, let's say, Cleveland picking 1, 2 the Titans, 3 us, and you just want to sweeten the pot a little bit to Tennessee, so you get a quarterback. Probably cost you your third overall pick and maybe like a third round pick, or not much to move up there. I could look at the trade value chart to really give you that exact answer, but it happened a few years back when exact situation when the Bears traded up with once it was the 49ers. Bears traded up with the 49ers from 3 to 2 to get Trubisky, and I think it cost them a third round pick. Now, granted, the Jets don't have a third round pick this year, so they'll have to get creative, maybe use a future pick on that. But this whole rebuild becomes a lot easier if the Jets are able to hold on to as many picks as possible. You would hate it for the Jets to have to be in a situation where they're picking like 9 or 10 in a situation where they need a quarterback and have to trade 3 first-round picks to move up. That's just it would basically be a situation where it costs you Sauce Gardner to get a quarterback, which, I mean, obviously, if you pick the right quarterback, it's worth it. But wouldn't it be so much better if you get your quarterback and you're able to build around them with the 4 first-round picks? My opinion. But again, I'm not rooting for losses, but don't get pissed off at a Jet fan for obviously understanding, that losses aren't the worst thing in the world for this team in this point in time. I mean, honestly, a game like the Patriots game is kind of like perfect for the situation. We stood in there, played with them for 3 quarters. The game was a 1 touchdown game for 3 quarters. Granted, it was Thursday night, short week. Patriots weren't firing on all cylinders. Whatever. We weren't firing on all cylinders either. We had Justin Fields playing quarterback. You would like to assume that better quarterback play, it's a closer game. And that's really what this rest of the season is about. Can Aaron Glenn just put us in a position with all this noise at quarterback to just – I joked around about it early in the season that, come the end of the season, like you're gonna see that metric popping up at the bottom of like CBS or whatever channel we're going on that week. You're gonna see this little metric at the bottom that says, "Oh, the Jets, even though they're 2 and whatever, they've played in 9 one-score games," or some sort of weird thing like that. And fact of the matter is, like, the Jets have been in a lot of one-score games this season. I think out of 10 games, maybe 6 of them are one-score games. And granted, some of those are, in my words specifically, fake type of score lines. But let me run down really quick. So Steelers game was a 1-score game. Bills was a blowout. Tampa turned into a 1-score game. That's one of the ones I kind of identify as like a fake 1-score game because the Jets were down so big in that game. They fought back. Give them credit for fighting back into that game. But Todd Bowles kind of did the whole prevent defense type of shit that, the Jets were able to take advantage of. Give them credit for that. Dolphins the very next week, 1-score game. That's another one I kind of label as kind of like a fake score line because Dolphins dominated for most of that game. Cowboys was a blowout. Broncos was a 1-score game. Panthers was a 1-score game. Actually, it's more than what I thought originally. Bengals was a 1-score game. Browns was a 1-score game. So we're at 7 games on the season. 7 through 10 games have all been 1-score. So we're actually a little better than what I said. I said, when you get further, 9 games. And the Jets are going to win a couple of games too. So that's what I'm getting at here is can this coaching staff just keep doing that? Because it makes things look better. they're in one-score games. Again, I do understand some of these not being as realistic as the final score predicts or suggests, but the Jets have been in a number of one-score games, 7 out of 10, and that's what you want to see the rest of the way. Can you just stay in these games? Can you just play competitive? Even like I said, even this Patriots game was a one-score game heading into the fourth quarter. Patriots had a couple field goals in the fourth quarter, make it a two-score game to match the spread. Like this game against the Ravens, the Jets are heavy underdog. I think it's 14 points last I checked. 14 point spread in this game. Can the Jets, hang in there? Can they hang in there, play competitive? I don't think this is the game for it. Going down to Baltimore. Baltimore's playing on fire right now, but they did just have a game against the Browns, where a team we just beat a few weeks ago. It was a division rivalry, so you got to give it something there, a little more extra moxie. But just be in these games. Give this fan base something where we can build off of, have a little bit of confidence, because that's what this fan base really really needs. I think it more than anything, it just needs a jolt of confidence. If this team is obviously playing these one-score games, and we end up with a top 3 pick, and we'll put a quarterback in there and spend $60 million in cap space, $70 million in cap space to fortify the defense and retool the offense, and then bring in 4 young players that are going to be day one starters, ideally at top 45 picks, 4 top 45 picks, what it ends up being. You're talking about a fan base that can be as juiced as we were following the Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson draft. That's, and obviously Breece Hall in that mixture too. That's the level of oomph that this fan base will have for the first time in some time. Obviously, we'll be off-season champions no matter what, but if this coaching staff proves that they can kind of build off things, and obviously defense coordinator is going to be a big topic of conversation as well. Got to do something there with Steve Wilkes. Save that conversation obviously for when I don't even know if Dom's showing up. Is you freaking ghosting me, that freaking guy? What the hell, man? But you're talking about a fan base that could have something exciting moving into next season if they continue to play the way that they've been playing for most of the season. Yeah, I mean, there's some games on the rest of the schedule where I fully anticipate that they'll be involved in. That Falcons game looks winnable. Very winnable now. You're going to have Kirk Cousins versus Tyrod Taylor, which is, oh my God. I thought the Browns game was a tough watch. Jets versus Browns. With Fields versus Dylan Gabriel. Imagine how tough that Falcons game of Kirk Cousins versus Tyrod Taylor or potentially Brady Cook will look. Man. 7 games left, people. Oh my God. 7 games for the rest of our lives. But again, it just goes down to it. It's if this team could just be in these games, lose it late with a stupid Steve Wilkes friggin' letting the team get into field goal range type of situation. That's not the end of the world, in the grand scheme of these things. You'd like to see this defense take steps in the right direction. Can you close out a game? Sure. But I think we all kind of understand and hope at this point in time that Steve Wilkes will once again be a one-and-done defensive coach and or head coach, because back when he was a coach with the Cardinals, he was one and done. I think it was the Cardinals, right? Yeah, Cardinals, he was one and done. Obviously interim head coach with the Panthers, one and done. He's had a few stops along the way as a defensive coordinator with the 49ers, one and done. There's been a number of situations where from his time there with the Arizona Cardinals, he's been one and done in each of those situations. This one's looking like it as well. Defense was playing promising for those 2 weeks with the Broncos and the Panthers, but he gave 40 points to the Bengals. Good performance against the Browns, but that was Dylan Gabriel, and then the Patriots carved this team up, dissected them completely. But yeah, you'd like to see some sort of situation here where maybe this team just keeps battling, keeps fighting. Can you stick in these games? Can you give this fan base a little bit of hope moving forward, especially with, a high draft pick potentially being one of these quarterbacks? Who that quarterback is, I don't know. I have my guy that I like a lot. Huge fan of Mendoza. I don't know. The guy I watched, I want to say it was in like early October. I forget what year they played what week they played Oregon, but it was it was after they played Oregon. After that game, I was like, there's something here. Let me just take a look at this guy. And I went back and looked at some of his Cal tape, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, let me do one Dante Moore game, one Fernando Mendoza game, one Ty Simpson game. And I kind of did that pretty consistently. After I watched that second Fernando Mendoza game, I just kind of got into a point where I'm like, I got to just like really dive into this guy, because am I missing something with why he wasn't kind of slated to be a higher guy? And he had a lot of turnover where he plays at Cal, so I think that was probably a big reason why. But he's really cut down on that this season. His completion percentage is just insane. I think he's had like 3 games this season where he's had more touchdowns than incompletions. It's really impressive. I know he's not playing against the greatest of opponents, but he's had some big wins. He's played Iowa this season. He's played, obviously Penn State isn't what the team we thought they were going to be heading into the season, but he still went into Penn State and won that game. Played Oregon, who's a top 10 team, and beat them. Showed some moxie with it too. Like he had a bad game, he threw a bad interception late in that game, and then beat them when it mattered most down the stretch. In a game that was showcased. I mean, that's the thing too. Like it was a national showcase. That was the game of the week that everyone was targeting, because that was, the quarterback matchup, the key quarterback matchup going into that. That's really what put him on the map for me personally. For some other people, obviously, like, there are people that kind of had him a little bit higher moving into the season. But for me, that was a eye opener for me. I just really had to take a look and see what this guy was all about. And when you look at some of that old Cal tape from him, I didn't go into his first year as a starter. I didn't go that deep. But I did look at his second year, his last year at Cal. And, man, there's a lot to like there. And I think it was the Stanford game. He just took a beating. Very similar to the Penn State game. He just took a beating all day long. Just kept getting hit. And eventually had a 14-point comeback. That's the kind of stuff that this team really just desperately needs. They just need someone back there that's just like a true leader. He'll take a beating for you, and he'll come back, and he'll make the big plays. It's college versus the NFL. Obviously, it's a different story. But the guy's gotten better every single year he's been a starter. And obviously, the other guys haven't really shown that because they haven't had the opportunity, because we've just seen them all for one season. But, we have the tape on Mendoza. We have seen him progress every single year as a starter. Completion percentage has gone up each year. Touchdown to interception ratio has gone up each year. I think it was 1-to-1, 2-to-1, and now he's up to 4-to-1. So it's not only has it gotten better, it's doubled each season. Yeah, I mean that's the guy I want right now. A lot of people high on Simpson. I don't dislike Simpson. I just haven't seen adversity from him respond to adversity yet. Um, Obviously, last week was a big showcase for that. Big game against Oklahoma. Threw a bad pick six and had a big game yardage wise. I think he almost threw 400 yards. Awesome game in that aspect. But when the team needed it for him to run a 2-minute drive, they didn't do it. Played a very strong Oklahoma defense. I'm not going to sit here and act like he played, a terrible defense and just didn't show up. He played a really good defense, and they got the better out of him. But how's he respond this week? I don't know who they have on the schedule this week, if they're playing at all. But I'd like to see how he responds now. After a bad game, does he go out there and does he put the team on his shoulders? I don't know. If he doesn't, there's some concern there, potentially. Because I've seen far too many times Mendoza put his team on his back, specifically. I think that's the biggest thing for me. The biggest factor is that I think Mendoza consistently puts the team on his shoulders and wins. He wins games. He's undefeated this year. Last year, he just had a really terrible roster around him. Took a beating. Played solid football. Played promising football. Just, need to change the scenery. And then you can say about any quarterback, especially nowadays with the NIL situation and transfer portal, players are moving around all the time. I think Dante Moore moved. Dane can answer the question when he joins up. He's a big I don't know if he's a supporter of Oregon. I think he's in the area. We got to ask him. Yeah, it looks like friggin' Dom ghosted me. Screw it. But yeah, the quarterback position is going to be one to pay attention to, obviously, for sure. Because this team does not have a quarterback next year. It's going to be a very interesting sight. Alrighty. What else we got here? Yeah. The good thing about the transition of Taylor, mostly, going into last week, I think the biggest intrigue I had was Adonai Mitchell. I didn't have the highest of expectations on Mechie, but I honestly and it's not a competition as far as who's gonna win this way and that way. But Mechie had a promising performance. 3 catches, 45 yards, touchdown. He's a solid route runner. He gets open, and he got open a lot on Thursday. Jeez. Got open a lot. Mitchell also got open a lot. I think I'm most intrigued to kind of see how the season progresses with those two. I'd like to see the Jets get Breece Hall more involved in the passing game, obviously. I feel like it's such a sad day. Getting ghosted by Dom. Will Dane ever join? No, Dane will show up. I'm not sure about Dom. I don't know what the fuck his deal is. Yeah, he'll be showing up too, I think, at some point. We'll see. But yeah. Interested to see what the season turns into the rest of the way for guys like Mitchell and for guys like Mechie. Just want to see, like, can one of these guys or both these guys, like, show that they're viable options? Because, this, I think you go into the offseason right now, where you say the Jets probably need a solid number 2 receiver for sure. I think I don't think Mechie or Mitchell changes that. I think if anything, Mitchell maybe has a chance to do that. But I don't want a situation here like we've seen so many times with previous regimes where it's like you don't fill a spot because of potential of a player. And I'm not saying like ignore potential, but if there's a top-notch wide receiver, you better go out and get that guy, especially for picking a quarterback. The last thing you want is a situation where you're forcing a guy like Adonai Mitchell to be a number 2 wide receiver. He may not be that. He may just be a good option, a third option, which is fine. I'm fine with that. If he is a number 2 wide receiver, guess what? You have a good problem. A good problem. Having multiple good wide receivers, especially at a young age with, a low salary, that's a good problem to have. I'll take that from what we've had for such a long period of time. But if one of these guys or both these guys can really show that they can be, options for a young quarterback, watch out. You're talking about a situation where you can really, 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 really get an idea of what this rookie is. If he has Garrett Wilson on the outside, Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie, and fill in your blank on a number 2 wide receiver, you can even get I think a lot of people like what Chris Bellamy brings to the wide receiver position. I think he has his flaws, and that's probably a big reason why he's kind of, falling, not falling, but he's like in that high second round range, not like high first round range or low first round range is what I'm kind of getting at. But you can get explorative with the player like that. You're not forced to pick a guy that you 100% trust. Obviously you just don't want to do something stupid like get Stephen Hill, like we did many years ago. You do want to make sure you're getting somebody that has potential that you can definitely see. But I think having Mitchell and Mechie kind of perform, and maybe that gives you that little bit of hope that things can, you can get creative at wide receiver in the draft. You just have to address it. Wide receiver has got to be addressed in the draft, 100%. Unless, like I said, unless there's a trade situation. But I just don't think this is the year for something like that. I think if anything, let's say you flame out and don't get a receiver that's solid in the draft, and you need to upgrade in year 2 with a young quarterback, that'll be the year to do it. All that money from the quarterbacks, Fields and Rodgers, gets off the books. You're able to go out there and acquire, whoever you need because you'll have all the ammunition to do it. You look at what the Dolphins did with that 1 year with Tua. They went berserk and they said, okay, what? We have all these first round picks. Let's go out there and let's get Tyreek Hill. Let's go out there and let's get Bradley Chubb. And I think they got really, really creative with how they use those first round picks. Did it work out? No. But listen, I'd much rather the team try to figure it out in a creative manner than just, it's hard to stick and pick all the time. You never know how the draft's going to fall. Dolphins took it a unique route. They had a bazillion picks. That was after they traded out of 3 that 1 year. With the 49ers, the Trey Lance draft. Traded out of 3, but got 3 first-round picks, and they used them in a creative way. We're able to get Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, and obviously fill out the roster a little bit too. Anybody in the comments? Nope, no comments. So we'll just keep going. I guess, we'll obviously wait for people to join up here, but I'm very interested, like what this defense can kind of show us the rest of the way. They're gonna have their work cut out for them. They have a lot of players that obviously, young players in Malachi Moore, these corners, all young. Stevens being the veteran guy out there. And we have joining the show, the great from the Danger Zone, Dane O, joining the show for the first time. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, if you haven't seen it, I have his information in the link to this video. Go shoot his channel a look. He has a Friday show that's must watch, must see. Him and Murph do an outstanding job. I gotta give Dane all support in the world because he supports my channel. He's a common guy in my comments. He's always there. He's always live. But yeah, he's awesome guy. Dane, thank you for joining. How's everything going, man?
Dude, give yourself some credit too, man. You've been doing this a while now, right? How long?
I want to say the first year I did it was, I want to say it was the which draft was it? It was the draft we had the 2 first-round picks with the
Sauce
ABT
and
yeah. No, it was the ABT and Zach Wilson draft.
Okay, yeah, you've been doing this a while.
Year. Yeah, it's been a little bit of time, but yeah,
Dude, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you on Fridays. We've had you on a couple times, me and Murph, and always good conversation, man. So I don't get a lot of these opportunities to, join other shows and not do everything, not be the producer and the question asker and all that. So this is kind of a nice change of pace for me. I'm going good.
You
just
seem relaxed. You don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about pulling the strings. Be the man behind the mirror. Like you got it all figured out here. Dom should be showing up at some point. I'm pretty sure that's what he said at least. So we'll see how it goes. But
I hope so. He seems like a fun guy.
Yeah, he should. Hopefully he joins. He got held up in a meeting for work, so hopefully he's able to make it. But all good otherwise. But yeah, let's dive right into it, man. Like we're at 2-8, man. It's been a long season. It's a long season. I feel like as you kind of dive into it week to week, it just seems like we're falling down the draft order. Even though we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're losing games. First things first. How are you handling or how are you treating the rest of the season from like a tanking standpoint, rooting for wins, rooting for losses? Because that's obviously a major topic of conversation for most in the fan base.
First and foremost, I think we all forget, like, you only get 17 games a year, man. All year, you get 17 games. And, like, after 3 games this year, half of Twitter wanted to tank the next 14.
Yeah, no, that's tough.
I'm not that way, and like mainly because I don't want to just fall into that off-season champs, off-season. You know what I mean? Like you only get to play September, October, November, December. Boom, done every year. Like I don't want to tank because A, you only get 17 games, play them out, but also B, do we need to tank, Anthony? Do we need to tank to have a top? Do we need to have a top 5 pick?
No, and that's the thing too. Like at the end of the day, like however this season goes, win, loss, like we're gonna win a stupid game. We're gonna lose some dumb games. It's just the way the season is gonna go. We're gonna be somewhere around 3 or 4 wins. Maybe we get a fifth. Maybe. I don't see much more than that. Like, do you see his team getting 6 wins? I mean, that would require us going 4-3 down the stretch. I just don't see it. But would you be upset with it? To get 4 wins down the stretch means you're probably going to beat, a team like Miami, who's on fire right now, a division rival. Probably going to beat Atlanta. And then you're going to beat 1 or 2 of Buffalo or Patriots with that finishing record, most likely, or the Ravens. I mean, that's the avenue to 4 wins, more or less. For this coaching staff to be able to accomplish that with everything they've got, that would probably show me a little bit more than this tanking. Because tanking, obviously, like, we need to see more out of this defense. We need to see. I don't know if Steve Wilkes is there next year, but we need to see this defense. Like, can you close out games? We saw it against Cincinnati. But that was also a game where they gave up 38 points. Eventually during a game, you have to stop someone. But yeah, I guess let's start there. Like, what's your evaluation of Steve Wilkes? Like, I mean, do you think there's a world where he's defense coordinator next year? You think Aaron Glenn kind of plays it like
it's
tough, like you do with Fields, and we're gonna ride with him.
Mm-hmm. Performance alone, I would say no. But what gives me pause is that Glenn and him, like, they're like this, man. They're like brothers. Mm-hmm. And he was Glenn's primary option for defensive coordinator. I don't think that he's pleased with the job thus far, but I think a lot of it has to come down to these next 7 games, mm-hmm. Because they have shown strides. They started pitiful, and they have gotten better. You said, do I see an avenue of us winning or 4-3 or down the stretch? There is in my mind a path, but it has to do with that defense being the best form we've seen this year, the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And it has to do, like, it's so hard to evaluate the offense with Fields because, like, you might as well have me at quarterback and then try to judge the other 10 guys. It's not a good evaluation. So can I fathom it? Yes. If the defense plays well and we actually have a quarterback that throws 200 yards passing.
200. I'll sell for 150. I mean, that's where we're at now, man. I had to look at it like I was befuddled. He's had 5 games this year where he's had under 120 yards passing. It's just can't make this shit up, man.
5.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. He's terrible.
You can't
4 games under 60.
Yeah, that's bad. That's real bad. Like, you can't be this league. You can't be one-dimensional. You can't. Mm-hmm. We have been. So, with us changing quarterbacks, I can't say I know what's going to happen these next 7 games because we're not going to have 4 more like you just stated. We're not. So Wilkes.
Yeah, so you touched on it. The quarterback change. Obviously, going to Tyrod Taylor was an obvious necessary move based on what we've seen for such a long period of time. I guess what's your thoughts on? I was talking to this actually with my brother. I think it was last week where I identified, like, at whatever point you go to Tyrod Taylor, you kind of have to elevate Brady Cook because we all know Tyrod Taylor. He's an injury waiting to happen. Hopefully, I'd love to see him kind of finish the season off, play 7 games. It's just his track record is that he'll probably play 2 games healthy, if that even, maybe a quarter. Like he played a half and got injured for us this year. So, and who knows if he's even at 100% at this point in time. Like, they kind of have to, right? Like, elevate Brady Cook and have him be your primary backup because you really just can't go back to Fields. What's your opinion on that?
Well, after the past 2 games or so, I wanted Fields to be QB3. I never wanted to see him play again as a Jet. Does that mean I need to activate 3 quarterbacks on game day? I don't know. You could probably have Fields. I don't know where Brady Cook is. Where is he
Yeah,
at?
well,
Is
none of
he
us do.
capable? Can he finish? If he has to, can he play 3.5 quarters, like you said? I don't know. Do we care? That's the other thing. If we're done and over with Fields, then yes, bury him on the depth chart. It would be nice, like you said, that Tyrod, however you want to say it, plays all 7 games fully. But at the same time, if they like Cook at all, maybe it's not. Maybe you want Tyrod to play 5 and Cook to play 2. If they like Cook and they would like to see him start before the end of the year, I think that he is QB2. But if I just hope this isn't one of those Quincy Williams benchings where it's like, Fields, you're down, but next week we're gonna look at you again. No, dude, we're done. It's over. I don't want to see it anymore, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jets kind of have a service like the rest of the way. Like, obviously, if they're winning games, it's one story. But if they are at a point like where they're, let's say 3-13 or something like that, or 3 and we'll say 3-12, 2 games left. I think you kind of have to like throw Cook in there at that point in time, because obviously you gotta leave every stone unturned. You can't leave a stone unturned. You have to kind of evaluate everybody in that locker room. Like, maybe Brady Cook has something. Obviously, they see what he is in practice. Not like, I always like to say it's not like gym class heroes. You know what I mean? Someone doesn't just go in there, although it happens. But it doesn't happen to the Jets. But you still got to throw him in there, at least for a couple games, see what you got out of him. Just to, basically kind of like fortify like what you've been seeing in practice isn't kind of working its way into games. And if that's the case, then you have your answer of how desperate you have to be for maybe even a backup quarterback versus like, just a starter. Because that's the issue that Jets find themselves in right now. Like, you don't even have a backup on this roster. This offseason is going to be tricky from like a team building standpoint, because obviously, like, the hope was Fields was at least going to be like able to like put something that you can trust, where you can rely on being a backup, maybe start a few games for you next year. If the rookie isn't ready, they don't even have that. And I think that's going to be desperate for the Jets. What do you?
I agree.
Position?
Nobody expected Fields to light the world on fire, but you expected him to hold the job all year enough to where you expected him to be 1 or QB2 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's up in the air. Like, now that's way up in the air. So it's tough because next year you got 35 million dead Rodgers money. If you cut Fields, that's going to be what, 20? If it's pre-June 1, I think I read the other day.
Yeah, 22. You can cut it in half if it's post June 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So either way, you're spending 40-some, 50-some million on quarterbacks not on the roster. You have to then replace QB1 and 2 and 3 on this team, like possibly. You try to do that in free agency, all of a sudden you're spending like $100 million at the position, and that's too much. So you gotta draft one, even if it's a guy you want to be QB2, and you got to sign another one off the street or extend Tyrod, however you want to play that. But I'm not opposed to having Fields next year. I just don't want him to be like one sprained ankle away from being our starting quarterback again. I'm fed up, man. Not if it's like the last 2 months have been.
Yeah, like after that Cincinnati game, obviously, like, I understand what Cincinnati was, but I did look at it as like, okay, maybe the Jets don't have to, go draft plus free agency for a quarterback. Maybe they can survive with, pick a quarterback. Fields can play a couple, because that's the biggest thing too. I mean, and you see it throughout the league all the time. You throw a quarterback in there first game of the season, and it's usually not pretty. It's tough. It's tough on the young guy. Ideally, you want that guy to sit for at least a few weeks, like you saw with Drake May last year, like you saw with Jackson Dart this year. You see it, sometimes like those players, they get a few weeks just to get themselves relaxed, see how an NFL game day goes, and they just come in a little bit more prepared. But when you got to start that first game, it's just alarming, and I don't see an avenue for the Jets to find somebody that's going to keep that quarterback off the field, whether it be Mendoza, Simpson. More if he comes out. Like there's obviously plenty of options. I don't know who's coming out, who's staying in. There's so many things there. Like you look at free agency. Like I don't know if you've looked at the free agency market. Like is there a quarterback there that like you have even like a semblance of trust to kind of like just hold the ship afloat?
The last I looked at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, and like nobody else.
Yeah. You nailed it. And Daniel Jones won't even make it. It's not even like that's a situation where he'll be available. They'll either tag him or they'll give him a contract extension. They'd probably give him a contract. They don't want to do the same thing that Minnesota did, letting Sam Darnold walk out and he just progresses further. But yeah, you basically nailed the list on the head. The guys like Marcus Mariota of the world, who we've seen, we've seen plenty of him.
I think I might take him over paying Daniel Jones $40 million or Justin Fields or Aaron Rodgers or Zach Wilson. Unfortunately,
yeah. I mean, Marcus not saying much. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like that's the concern. Like it's not so much that the Jets don't have a starter. Obviously, that's a big problem. But they also just don't have anybody like they're going to be put in a situation where the rookies will be starting day one, no matter what. They just don't have the guy there, which isn't the end of the world. I mean, if you're picking where the Jets are picking, like you would like to hope that guy is worthy of day one starting material. The Jets are just a different animal. Can
I ask you something?
Yeah, go for it.
Is there anything Tyrod can do these next 7 games that would make you comfortable having him back next year as the penciled in starter with just a rookie behind him?
I mean, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely an avenue there. I just think, again, it goes back to the fact of like Tyrod's, his injury history is that's the concern. I'm not against bringing Tyrod back. Yeah, I think he can definitely perform. I mean, I don't even think he needs to perform. I just think he just needs to be able to play, hold the ship afloat. Like that's exactly what we're looking for. But again, like you're kind of finding yourself in a situation where you're trying to start Tyrod for the season, but your rookie quarterback could be in there within, a handful of plays. That's just the way it is. Obviously the NFL has a quarterback issue. Is from a, there's not a lot of quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, what about trade market? I've seen his name float around. Guy like Mac Jones being successful in San Francisco. One, I don't see San Francisco trading him. I don't think they really need to. But two, let's say they make him available. Is that a guy that you're willing to trade? It probably goes for not much, probably a 3rd-round pick and maybe a day 3 pick as well. Is that an avenue you have any interest in?
So I would simply because of how grim the market is. We talked about it. Also, like ideally you'd have 2 Tyrod Taylors with a rookie because then that you can buy the rookie at least 8 games. You can't do that though, unfortunately. Could we do like a Tyrod and a Jameis together and a rookie? Maybe. Hey, Giants just did it. But at the same time, like Mac Jones, yeah, I think I would. However, I would not have day 2 picks on the table. 3rd rounder would be a deal breaker for me. I would do like a 4th, just a 4th. But at the same time, like who knows? That kid's playing in a Shanahan system, and anyone who comes to New York looks like a saturated version of themselves. So it probably wouldn't work out if we gave a 4th. But at the same time, what did we use a 4th on last year? Arian Smith, and he's done nothing so far. Not that I don't like him, but he's done nothing.
I think the writing's on the wall a little bit with that. Like the Jets went out and got aggressive in the trade market to bring back not one but two receivers to kind of lap them on the depth chart. You're talking about a guy like Aaron Smith that they picked with a 4th-round pick. That, I mean, based on that, is probably not going to be on the roster next year. I mean, let's be real. Like, they're probably going to draft a player within the first 2 rounds at receiver. So you're pegging him down the depth chart there. I'd like to see them bring back Mechie. He had a pretty promising start against Patriots. Let's see what he is the rest of the season. So you're already down 4 guys. Aaron Smith does play specials, so that probably helps him in that aspect, where he could be back. But, when you start getting to that realm of number 5 wide receiver, it's hard to play that game a little bit.
That's a guy, though, that is probably number 1 on my list for watching these next 7 games with a quarterback who's willing to throw it deep. Like, you talk about this change we're making quarterback. What are you more excited about now with Tyrod? Arian Smith is damn near top of the list. What do you think of A.D. Mitchell, though? You said you like Mechie, bring him back. I don't know the contract situation of Mitchell.
So Mitchell's under contract for 2 more years, so he'll be back no matter what. I mean, unless they cut him, but I assume he'll be back no matter what. Listen, I think he had a pretty promising game from like a route standpoint. He beat Christian Gonzalez a number of times in that game. That says a lot. Christian Gonzalez is a top 5, top 10 corner, depending on where you have him pegged. He's an elite corner in this league. And he got beaten a number of times with A.D. Mitchell. Getting open is fun. It's awesome, but you got to make those catches. A number of those catches were his to have, and he missed multiple times. Granted, the passes weren't perfect, and Jets Twitter is big on labeling those out, whatever, and I do understand. But at the end of the day, Adonai Mitchell gets paid millions of dollars too. Got to make those catches. But he had that one deep shot, which Fields leads him. It's probably a touchdown. He had that wheel route that Fields kind of threw a back shoulder on instead of just leading him there as well. Lead him in that position too. That's probably also a touchdown. And then just, that Fields just missing him multiple times. No, I do like Mitchell a lot. I think going into that game, had a lot of praise for him. Mechie, I feel like, was getting open and completing the catch. 3 targets, 3 catches. I'd like to see that go up pretty significantly. Listen, I have a lot of, like, say what you want about this Jets offense, but they have the weapons there. It's not perfect, but they got plenty of options there to help aid whoever's playing quarterback there. It's kind of befuddling that they're just not doing enough, not doing anything. This is a good supporting cast that can only get better moving forward, especially with all the draft capital we have.
It's a good base, especially when you have Garrett Wilson back, assuming you at minimum slap a transition tag on Brees. You got Mason Taylor, like you said, that O-line that you can pick and choose who you want to retain. It is a very good base, very good for a rookie, very good for a free agent signee, especially one that you guaranteed the starting spot to. It's not as ugly as a situation, recruiting wise, as it has been in the past for a quarterback coming in.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the supporting cast Sam Darnold had in his rookie year. You look at the supporting cast that Zach Wilson had. We all understand what Zach Wilson was. Just wasn't the right pick, obviously. But I don't think it mattered who the pick was at that spot. The supporting cast was just not – it got better. Obviously, the following draft, bringing in Garrett Wilson, bringing in Brees Hall. The offensive line was still a mess, and it didn't start becoming clean until Douglas's last year there, where he brought in Fashanu. And Tittman, kind of, obviously, but it was far too late for Joe Douglas at that point. But now you have all the pieces kind of in place. Free agency is going to be interesting. What do you think about a guy like AVT? What do you think the Jets do with the offensive line? You got 3 interior guys hitting free agency. How do you want them to attack free agency in this draft?
The hot take or the common take I should say right now is between AVT, Simpson, and Myers signed 2 out of 3. And the more I hear that, the more I like that idea. I'm not opposed to signing all 3 either.
That's what I would say too. I'll sign all 3. It's the
With
same roster
what
you would have had fielded when the season started anyway.
I think we have like I don't know 90 some million. You said it earlier. 90. How
90,
many? How
yeah,
many
I
millions?
think it's a 94, 95 now. It keeps changing because roster fluctuations, but yeah, around 94
Yeah,
million, let's say.
dude, let's sign all 3. AVT though, I wouldn't pencil in as a starter. I would make him earn that, or just be our swing guard, swing tackle, swing everything. Uh, Myers, I like. You know what? Maybe he likes us too because Green Bay kicked him out basically, and we gave him a home and we gave him a starting spot between 2 hell of a guys. Like, hey, he might jump at the chance to extend here. 2 years, 2-3 years, cheap option. Simpson, I think, is the questionable one with like he gets he defends our team. Let's put it this way, a lot of people, some people at least, would let Simpson walk for his penalties and stuff. I kind of like it though, because most of the time he's defending our guys. And honestly, I think he's got the most teeth on our O line out of all of them. So, like, you let him walk. I get it. You want to save money. You want to draft to replace him, whatever. But, like, you have no idea what that'll cause to the rest of them because, again, he's the only guy with teeth there.
Yeah.
So I do like signing all 3 of them back, 2 out of 3 if we have to. Definitely don't let 2 out of 3 walk though, please. We don't want to upset the apple cart kind of thing,
Yeah, no, for sure. I think if you ask me today, I think Myers is definite to come back. Like, I mean, obviously anything can happen, but I think he's probably the most likely to return. And then I think you're kind of in a pick and choose point at that time. I think you're picking between ABT and John Simpson, but obviously, if you bring ABT back, you got to supplement that with another guard type of player that you can trust for starting caliber snaps because again, talk about Tyler Taylor with his injuries. ABT's been a common guy in the injury bug as well. All freak injuries, I get it, but the injuries seem to find him pretty consistently. So it sucks because when he's out there, like you feel it. Like he's definitely one of the best run blockers we have on this roster, if not the best. It sucks not having him on the field. It really does because this team. I feel like this offensive line ceiling is with him on the field, and when he's not there, it's kind of tough. But
dude, I wonder too, like if Saul and Douglas were still here, they'd probably just let him walk. They've seen enough. But Glenn and them, they've really only dealt with the one AVT injury. Maybe that'll play in our advantage.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like he's going to go out there and get a 3-year contract. No one's going to do that for him at this point in time. So it's going to be a 1-year deal. My thing is like, obviously the Jets have all the money in the world. They can make whatever happen. I just wonder if it's a situation for him, like where it's like, man, I keep getting these freak injuries. Man, I just need to go to a team that has like a state of the art medical team, like that just can really help me with my rehab, help me with everything, and just get my career on track. Because, let's be real, another injury isn't going to help him get in that next contract. But maybe he has a healthy full season where he plays football the whole year, whatever, on a 1-year contract. Someone is willing to give him a multi-year contract after that because was that damn good, and they think his injuries behind him. There were freak injuries. He'd prove that he could play a full season type of situation. I think that might have some play in it too, from a player standpoint, because the Jets aren't going to tag him. He's not going to be like stamped here. But damn, I would hate to see that guy go to a team and just like finally play a full season healthy and just be like all-world guard, like we all
Dude,
expected him to be.
the Eagles would come and get him so fast.
Oh my god.
So fast.
Yeah, Mekhi goes there, goes on a diet, wins the Super Bowl. AVT goes there, plays a 20-game season, and
Yep.
wins a Super Bowl. Oh my god, that would
all
just be
all pro honors. Yeah,
yeah.
because he's actually talented. Like,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
And Joe Douglas being in, like, people always say, "Hey, Atlanta's gonna poach our guys. San Francisco's gonna." No, dude. I mean, come on, look at this. Philly, Joe Douglas. He's got sway over there.
yeah. I mean, he brought a few of his guys over there. So I know you've kind of gone with Brees Lou, and you mentioned him earlier. And I heard you saying slap him with the transition tag, which I don't know if that was something that you were saying so much earlier in the season. So what's kind of changed your opinion on that, or I guess I'll let you talk on that one.
Yeah, I was definitely very low on Brees, and honestly, I still am compared to everyone else, because everyone
Mhm,
else is ready to crown him, and I can't until I see him like hit a home run up the middle.
mhm,
That would be like my wow. He's working back. He's back.
mhm,
He's shown me a lot though, and like you asked, why am I rounding the corner on him a little? It's exactly that. Like I saw him round some corners where
mhm,
I said to myself, "Wow, that's faster than he's been in a while."
mhm,
Um, I'm still not sold because if you look at our 10 games or whatever, he still had 3 or 4 that were terrible, like
mhm.
2 point something yards per carry. Like, does Aaron Jones do that? Does Alvin Kamara? Well, Alvin Kamara might. I'm not gonna lie, but uh,
Yeah, I mean, well,
my thing is, I just didn't want him to get a massive extension from us. I don't think he will, but
mm,
he's played well enough this year and gotten better throughout the course of most of the games to where like
mhm,
fourth quarter he's proving to me again that he can be a workhorse. But again, there's still other things that I have still seen that turn me off to giving him like 3 for 40 or something crazy like that. I
mhm.
won't do that. If we could get
So
him,
what?
I like transition tag would be awesome because you got to make him prove it again, or you got to make someone else come and pay him more than you're
Mhm.
willing to, which might happen.
Which
But what I would
I don't think they would.
ideally
'Cause I
like,
think with the transition tag, I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong on this, but isn't that like where they would have to come in and give you like first round picks or something like that for it if you were to do that? I gotta look that up.
there there is a tag that is that. I don't think transition is just he goes and tests the market and he comes back with the best offer he has, and then you have the ability to match it, I believe. I
Mhm,
don't think there are ones where it's like protected free agent. But yeah, by all means, let me know. It's not my idea to transition tag him either. Let me state that. Like I did hear Connor Rogers mention that, and it's a viable strategy. Um, you could also
mhm.
just franchise tag him. I mean, that's another thing you could do. But again, like,
That gets a little more. I think a transition's like a $10 million. Franchise is about 12 or 13 or so. I think is what it works out to. So a
okay.
little bit more on that aspect.
The other thing is, would he be more valuable and better looking with a quarterback that actually sees him in the passing game, or a
Listen, I
quarterback
have
that
no
can
idea what happened in that
threaten?
Patriots
Like,
game, but how did he
yeah,
get
the
two
Patriot.
receptions? That's the biggest area of concern I have with like this coaching staff. It's like very first drive, you go down the field, use Fields' legs, scores a touchdown, bam. Like it looks like we got some sort of game plan in place. And then they take away the legs. And not only do
They
you take away
do.
the legs, but you're not using Brees Hall. Like,
There was 8
listen,
man boxes. That second drive, there was 8 man boxes.
mhm,
But like after that, you gotta throw some passes, man. You gotta get
mhm,
them out of 8 man boxes. Like, and again, like you said, passing game, how do you not Mason Taylor and Breece Hall together should be two like cheat codes for quarterbacks, man. Just look for them for the dump offs, the 5-yard comebacks. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what is up with Fields. I'm glad he's not starting next week, but also like, I don't know. Tyrod did play, and he has played this year. He threw it deep. He threw it to Mason Taylor, and I can't remember if he threw it to Breece, but I just feel like now we're really going to get to see, is Breece worth the extension? Is he worth a 1-year flyer? Mason Taylor, like, gotta love that kid, but like he hasn't done much in a few weeks. Is it him or is it Fields? Because there is like a rookie wall thing that happens. I would love to draft a tight end high to put with him, but like we need to see what he is by the end of the year. But yeah, I was low on Breece. Long story short, low on Breece. I'm mildly higher though, for sure, because he has put together some good performances. But we also have given him a ton of touches in the running game because Braylon got hurt. Because we don't want to give Isaiah Davis touches for some reason.
Isaiah Davis, I feel like he's definitely earned that. When that ball's in his hand, like that Cincinnati game was pretty showing for him. I feel like so many times, like when Breece is on the field, whatever, and there was like that like step back to your number 2 running back, you felt it. Like it was a definite change, and that's part of the reason why it's like, I think Breece could definitely use a good compliment. I think Isaiah Davis looked like that in that game. I mean, it literally looked like the same running back was on the field at all points in time. A guy can catch the ball out of the backfield, a guy can get outside and scoot down the sideline. There was that 50-yard run that Isaiah Davis had, and then 2 drives later, very next drive, Breece does the same exact thing. It looked exactly the same going down that sideline. If the Jets do keep Breece Hall, I do want Isaiah Davis to have a higher role, but I would also like for the Jets to explore other options too at running back, maybe getting someone on day 3 because they don't have a 3rd-round pick, getting someone on day 3 because I don't get as much hype for Braylon Allen personally as many do in the fan base. I know he hasn't been given his opportunity, but let's be real. How many 4th and 1s, 3rd and 1s has he gotten the opportunity and got stoned on? It's just not. That's a situation based on his size. And granted, he's still like super young. I think he's like 22 years old, 21 years old, really, really young. But I don't want him being handed starting role. I'd like to see him earn it, maybe.
If we trade, like my thing too was if we traded Breece in the middle of this season, like I did think Isaiah Davis was more of an RB1 than Braylon is, because like Braylon is more of a change of pace spell back, and I wanted to keep him there. Now that never happened, but like we're talking like long term. If you do tag Breece or whatever, I do like that idea. Draft someone in day 3. I wouldn't be opposed to drafting one in like the 3rd round if they're worth it, because
I wouldn't be opposed to it either. But we wasted that 3rd-round pick on Hassan Reddick.
Oh, yeah, true. Well, you never know, man. Are we going to use both firsts, or are we gonna kick one down the road for like a 2 and a 3? You never know.
I feel like if the Jets, if that 1st-round pick was higher, like if the Colts like bottomed out and like they're not going to miss the playoffs, but if they like, even if they went 1 and done, if they got eliminated in the 1st round of the playoffs, that pick is somewhere between 20 and, or I think it falls between 18 and 24 or something like that. You have an opportunity there. Like if it's the 18th pick, it'll probably be 24 because they have a good record. So you got 24th pick, then you're in a situation, okay, trade back, maybe to high in the 2nd round, also probably kicking back as well, like a 2025 3rd-round pick or 2026 3rd-round pick as well. Then you're in a situation with 3 2nd-round picks that you can kind of dance around the board a little bit more. But I also think if the Jets are picking that high, their eyes are on wide receivers galore. I don't know if you get a guy like Mekhi Lemon at that point. I don't know if you get a guy like Carnell Tate. But if that Colts pick is higher, you kind of get yourself in a situation where if we pick quarterback top 3 and we package that 24th pick, let's say, and one of those next year's first round picks to go up and get a guy like Kyle Lemon, that's a very, very intriguing option there.
You know what? I'm gonna. I don't know if you know this. I'm in Oregon. I live in Oregon. I've been watching the Ducks for a couple years now, and Sadiq is. You know, when I mentioned earlier that we needed another tight end, dude, Sadiq is my prime candidate. Give me that Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely combo. Yeah, but
I'd be intrigued by that for sure.
What I was like mentioning Oregon for though is that we have USC coming in or going or whatever. We play USC this week, and Makai Lemon. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the full experience this weekend. So
he looked outstanding, man. It's he's kind of risen up draft boards like really, really. I feel like in the beginning of the year I was kind of talking about him as like, you know, a good option for the Jets. Like if they were to trade up in the second, they're not gonna have enough to trade up in the second round to go get him. But obviously, like, you know, you start getting in a situation where that Colts pick, maybe they go out in the first round, you can really kind of do an all-in type of move right there. But that's also very aggressive. I don't know. I don't think this regime does something crazy like that, but you kind of have to with the wide receiver position sometimes, because if you're sitting around waiting, so that
let me ask you, because I mean you probably monologued about the Patriots game, but I wanted to ask you, like, you ship off Sauce and Quinnen, and Fields plays the way he has, like, are you down on us, or do you take all three of those things into account and say, hey man, like, we should have got just shellacked, and we kind of were in that game for longer than we should have been?
Yeah, I did talk about it a little bit on the earlier start of this. I mean, let's be real. It was a one-score game heading into the fourth quarter, and then, you know, Patriots kicked 2 field goals. The Fields fumble was, which, by the way, that Fields fumble, like, what was he doing in that situation? Like, didn't fall on it. Like, he tried picking it up and running with it or whatever it was. Like,
dude, just fall on
the floor for like seconds. It felt like it was ridiculous. No, I was definitely impressed that we were able to stay in it for so long. Now, I will say the defense was awful in that game. I think this is the first game where we felt the impact of Quinnen Williams not being there, because there were a number of instances where Jermaine and Will McDonald were able to kind of get around the edge. And it was wide range. It's not like they beat the tackles. The tackles had a good game that game. But May was just able to kind of drift up in the pocket a little bit. I am not sure if he's going to be able to drift up in the pocket like he did that game if Quinnen Williams is applying pressure out the middle. So we definitely felt it there. We felt the Sauce because we're just so thin at corner now because of the AZ Thomas injury. You know, we got carved up. Let's put it real. That secondary is awful. You know, well, when you're down to like a third corner, obviously that's the way it's going to go. Our safeties are just not good. Malachi Moore, he's solid. But ideally, the Jets attack safety in free agency because they've ignored that position for far too long. It really seems like ever since they drafted Jamal Adams and Marcus May, they just, we're good at safety for the next 20 years. Like, and they just ignored it. I don't know if they realize those guys aren't on the roster anymore. And even if they were, it'd still need to upgrade at this point in time. Safety's got to be one that they address in free agency. And I wouldn't even be opposed to us addressing it in free agency and also double dipping in the draft in the second round. That's how desperate I think the Jets are for safety help. They need help up the middle on that defense. And if they get safety help, you're talking about a situation where, Moore can be like your third safety / nickel guy. Let's say they go after a guy like Cam Curl in free agency and then get a guy like AJ Halsey in draft. Well, your back end is set up with good tackling corners, safeties, I mean. You got Malachi Moore in and out as a third safety, and that back end of the defense looks a lot different And the NFL's changed too. Like your linebackers, obviously you need good linebacker play, but if you have good back end of your defense and a strong defensive line, which also needs some work, your linebackers can basically play downhill, which is what a guy like Quincy Williams wants to do, what Jamie Sherwood wants to do. I think the defense is one that it looks bad right now, but it can be significantly upgraded with some capital at the safety position, and then obviously a defense coordinator change would obviously make a huge impact as well. What do you think about all that?
I look forward to them tinkering because the last time they got the chance, they didn't see any of our players in their scheme. Get a full evaluation in front of their eyes, like 99 million, 95 million, whatever. Cool. Please just get me one guy in the secondary who is proven ball hawk. Is that too much to ask? Because we've been asking for it for like 5 years now. How do you watch this team and see us going into week 12?
Week 12.
Week 12, 0 interceptions.
Zero interceptions. One turnover.
Zero.
One turnover.
One fumble recovery from a guy who was here for like a hot second. It's before his whole Tennessee Titans wore off. He got us one, but then he became a Jet fully. 0 ever since. Get us one ball. If you want to draft and sign a safety, fine. You got to figure out what you're doing with Quincy Williams for sure. But Jermaine, do you want to offer him that's fine. He's good for a minute anyway. But this defense will look different. Like you said, up the middle, especially tackles, linebacker, safety, up the middle for sure. Brandon Stevens will be here. Who's going to play opposite him long term? We think we know, but do we need an insurance policy there? Maybe. Please, prerequisite. You got to have hands if you're playing in our secondary next year, please.
At the job interview, they got to throw him the ball really quick and see what he does with it. If it hits his hands and he drops it, all right, nice seeing you. But yeah, I think that they've just ignored that position. And this free agency class at safety, there's a few different options there too. Reed Blankenship's another one too. I don't know if he shakes out of Philly, but man, that guy's an enforcer, captain type of player, Super Bowl champion. That would be a player that I'd welcome with open arms for sure.
Blankenship,
I just don't know. First off, I don't know if he shakes out of Philly, and if he leaves Philly, does he really want to come to the damn Jets?
That's why we need Tyrod to win us some games, man. You cannot be a 2-15 team going into the spring. You can't.
You got to overpay for a play like that for sure, which is what I feel like the Jets have to do on a yearly basis. But yeah, I'm very intrigued with and I spoke about it earlier, and I guess we're on the free agency topic of conversation, so might as well kind of dive into it. I kind of addressed it as like, free agency is probably going to be your avenue to go out there and get your defensive players, probably like allocating a large amount of your resources on defense, with a few offensive players trickled in there. The offensive class is not great. Receiver position, there's a couple of guys out there like Jacoby Myers, Wan'Dale Robinson, but again, Myers played for Vegas for years, played for the Patriots when they were not. No, he was there with Tom Brady actually. So maybe it's like, maybe he has some winning there. But at the end of the day, like he probably wants to go to a winner. He's in Jacksonville right now, and they're playing solid, but it's still Jacksonville. See how it goes. So yeah, the free agency wide receiver class is very, very bleak. Same with the tight end position, just not a lot of options there. So I think when you look at the free agent class, if you're going to try and identify like where can we improve, you look at the safety position as probably the number one spot, and then fill out your defensive line depth. Get a few guys. Anzalone, linebacker from Lions, makes a lot of sense for Aaron Glenn with this defense. And this will be a big test. Aaron Glenn's known as being like a player's type of coach, whatever. Well, there's your big test. Can you lure in a player, one of your former defensive players, to follow you to New York and try and help your message a little bit more clear? That's a big test for him as a recruiting type of guy. And then, so I mentioned probably good like 65, 70% of your resources on defense and free agency, and then using the draft as a way of just, building around whoever that rookie quarterback is if we get one in there.
Yeah, I'm down. The good thing is, like, I just love the prospect of having the 5 first-round picks, because that, in conjunction with the 90 some million's awesome. But guess what? We have 25 people on expiring deals. So if you replace all 25 with $4 million players, which isn't great, all our money's gone. So like, for me, it's more the bevy of picks we have, because hopefully our first round pick is high enough we can take a quarterback, because then you can trade down with other firsts and really get a whole bunch of day 2 picks and replace this team. But if we have to trade up and burn another one, and then we're out of 3, like you mentioned already, like, then it's becoming less. And then you miss, like, hey, look at Modine joining the fun.
Modine.
You know what? All I'm saying is, bring me them picks, but also I prefer sticking and picking. If we're not in QB range, we can give something up, but I don't want to give up another one to do it. And then I want to ask you, like, and you can even branch out on that if you want to trade up for Mendoza or bust. No, Mendoza, no matter what, as Joe Douglas would say.
Yeah.
Or if you'd rather stick and pick all 5 of them. And also, do you think Mendoza is a bum like Modine?
I do not agree with Modine on the Mendoza situation. So I am huge on Mendoza. He's my favorite quarterback. I out of the ones in this draft for sure. So here's a little history lesson for me. So I was in a group chat, and this is before, I had no idea who Mendoza was in middle of September. I heard his name a couple times, but I wasn't just familiar with him at all. And my answer was, who is he? I don't know, probably some bum. Then I watched him play against Oregon, and I really respected the fact that he threw that pick 6 and responded right away with a touchdown to take the lead, and eventually they won the game, as you probably are well aware of. Sorry to bring up that history lesson for you. But I saw something out of there that the Jets specifically could have needed for a long time. When something bad happens, this team falls apart. It spirals. They don't have that ability to take on adversity and turn the game around. And I feel like this has been a major problem with them ever since Saleh was here. Obviously before that, but when Saleh was here, it was emphasized. When something bad happened, everything was going to happen moving forward in the opposite direction. So when I saw that happen, I was like, I really got to start watching this guy and see what the hype is on him. And I took a lot of time over the following 2 weeks to watch. I want to say I watched like 6 or 7 of his games at Cal. And what I saw of him at Cal was a player that took a little bit of a beating, threw a lot of turnover-worthy plays. But he took a beating and was always in these games. I don't really think he had many like games you would identify as like, oof, that was awful. He played terrible that game. His turnover to touchdown to interception ratio, and I didn't go back to his first year. It was 1-to-1 that year, turnover to touchdown ratio. That his second year there, it was 2-to-1. 280 yards per game. It was solid quarterback play. Now he goes to a team in Indiana who's trending upwards, came into the season ranked 20, and he has forced that team into the number 2 spot. Is his schedule great? No, but he has won some key games in this season. He's beaten Iowa, who is a top 20 team now, I believe. They're ranked. He's beaten Penn State in Penn State. I know Penn State is down this year, but they're still a tough team to play at Penn State, regardless of what their record is. And let's be real, they got Penn State's best punch that game. That defense was flying around. Dennis Sutton, Dennis Sutton, whatever his name is, he was a monster that game, and he's been a monster all season long. I would love for the Jets to take a flyer on him somehow in the middle of rounds if he's available. But I digress. I've just seen this guy kind of like just play consistently better each week that I've seen him play, and I kind of find myself wanting to watch more of it. Simpson, I do like as well. My fear with him is I haven't seen him hit adversity yet. That last game against Alabama was the first real sign of him hitting adversity. And I'm not saying he didn't rebound. He still played a great game, 400 yards. But when he needed to make a 2-minute drive down the stretch, he didn't kind of rise to the occasion. And Oklahoma has a great defense. You can't really kind of fault him completely on that. I want to see how he rebounds now in a following week. I don't know who Alabama plays this week. I'd like to see, hopefully it's a good opponent, where you guys say, okay, did he rebound in a positive way? Did he kind of bring the team on his shoulders? I don't know if I've 100% seen that out of Simpson yet. Him just putting the entire team on his back and taking them to victory. I've seen it plenty of times out of Mendoza. I think Cal overachieved for a 5-5 team last season, and I think he was a big part of it. And I think Indiana is rising to an occasion of a world that they have never been at. Ranked number 2 in the country. I want to see him go up against good competition. I am hoping they finish it off with a win against Purdue. That would be absolutely abysmal if they don't, considering what they've done this season. And I want to see him go head-to-head against Ohio State, who has arguably the best defense in college. And that would be a big, big test for him. We'll see what happens there. But who's
let me ask you this, because I feel like a lot of Jet fans get caught in this trap of we need whichever quarterback is the best in the class. Mm-hmm. I like to sit back though and think of it as, can any of these guys be right for us here? Mm-hmm. And that's where my hang up is. Mendoza does seem to play well. He seems to play better when his back is up against the wall. Hell, just last week he threw a pick on the very first drive, and then he came back and, hey, he didn't throw another one like Modine suggests. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, if we get the first crack at the quarterback position in the draft, hypothetically, if we do, would you take one even not thinking they had enough to survive New York? Because, to me, that's a whole nother animal.
I think that's a huge thing, and that's probably one of the hardest things to dissect. That was a big calling card for when Zach Wilson was coming out that year. I don't know if you remember that being a huge thing. Can he handle the New York media? He's in Utah. And the thing I heard a lot was, well, he plays for BYU, and that's they're monitored, pretty strictly. It's different. BYU is a different animal than being monitored by the New York media and the national media. It's unfortunate being the Jets that the entire national media, and let's be real, they're waiting for the team to fail. Drake May last year, what did he win? 2 games last year? You didn't even hear about it, man. And I'm not saying he didn't play well or whatever have you. He had promising games, whatever, and then the team was awful around him. But let's say you threw that entire situation exactly, and you put it in New York. I am not so sure that he would have gotten the same benefit of the doubt of no kind of, he'll be all right. He'll work it out. The Jets will figure it out. And granted, it's the Patriots, and they earn that benefit of the doubt. But the fact that the Jets are just covered differently than a lot of teams. because of same old Jets, LOL Jets, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, whoever it is going to need that like mental fortitude to be able to kind of take everything that's going to come with being a Jets quarterback. You're gonna have bad games, and you're gonna hear it from every different angle that you're a bust, that you're a bum, which is something that you don't see at his college. That's why they're out there, and that's why they're slated to be top picks. They've never had that before. It's a hard world to try and identify, unfortunately. And who has that? I don't know. But I'd much rather go against. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if you take one, say we don't trade up, say we're not first overall, we're like sixth, which I think is likely. Say you're sixth and you take a quarterback. Say you get to see him for 6 games at the end of the year, but they weren't a good 6. Would you be opposed to spending another first on a quarterback the next year?
I wouldn't be opposed. So here's what probably happens in a situation like that. Like, let's rewind the clock to like the Sam Darnold draft. Josh Rosen was picked 10th or 9th, somewhere in that avenue. I forget exactly when. Didn't have a good rookie year. Ends up getting traded to the Dolphins for a 2nd-round pick. So that's the game you're playing, the risk you're taking. Whoever you pick in the top 10, if you're choosing to pick a quarterback in the following draft because you're slated to get one of those top guys, whatever, then you're losing a draft. You're losing a round of draft capital. You'll probably get a 2nd-round pick for him unless he just like looks like Zach Wilson. But that's probably your risk. And I think like if you're in a situation where if Arch Manning continues to build off of what he had a couple of good games and last week not so much. But if Arch Manning next year with another year under his belt, more starts, looks like the guy we thought he was going to be after this year, and you're sitting up there high enough draft slot to be able to get him, I'm not opposed to if you believe that guy is better than the guy you picked this year to go up and get him. Yeah, I mean at the end of the day, the Jets have all these picks to find the right quarterback. If it means picking 2, not the best use of your resources, but if you feel like one guy's better than the other and you're in a position to get him, you're gonna have to do what you got to do. That's the goal of this whole thing.
Hey, I'm with you, man. If we got to spend all 5, I'm not gonna even be mad as long as one of the 5 work out.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
Who's your top tier guy? I mean, obviously I know you're a big Dante Moore supporter, but assuming he doesn't make it out,
yeah.
Who's your number one guy between Simpson and Mendoza? And I guess what leads you in that direction?
You know what? Unlike Mo, sorry, Mo, I do like Mendoza. I'm just not like Brees, not as high as most on him. What I do like, I do feel like that he works through progressions faster than anything we've seen in a decade. Which is troubling though, because I don't want to overcorrect as a Jet fan, knowing that we've had quarterbacks who haven't processed well, sans Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to just jump for the guy that processes the best just because it's what we haven't had. At the same time, I've seen a lot of incomplete games out of Mendoza. A lot. Like Oregon, for instance. I forget who they played last week. He threw a pick. Like it took him a whole half of football to start
State
cooking.
Was the one before that. Yeah, Penn State was not a good game, but he did rebound with a 2-minute drive.
All I'm trying to say is I do think he is the best in the class. I'm not sold that he is the right man for the New York Jets. For that reason, if I was 101 drafting, I think I would try to slide. I do. Call me crazy. If you have to take Mendoza, fine, because he's going to be all right in the league. He's going to be at least our QB1 or QB2. But I'm not calling it good and spending all 3 first rounders in 2027 on
Yeah, I really don't want to do that.
No, I don't want to burn all of our assets just on and keeping just the Mendoza experiment. Like, no. If anything, if I have to draft a guy this year that I'm or like even like 90% in love with, and going into the next year, I have 3 first rounders. If I don't want to draft a quarterback, I'm not going to spend them all on weapons and shit. I'm going to kick one into 2028 as insurance because, who knows? You got to have. How can you assume that the Jets are going to draft the right guy for us at this exact moment and we're going to be good for 15 years? Until you see it, you cannot believe that.
I think you can't. Obviously, you can't assume that, but I think the avenue for the Jets to be successful moving forward is definitely right in front of them. I'm with you. I do not want. I don't want us to be like picking 10 and feel like we have to trade up to number 1, which is going to cost us 3 first-round picks. That would be a very hard pill to swallow. I would much rather we're picking top 5, get our guy, and then use these 4 first-round picks to continue to pick and piece the rest of this roster around him. I mean, 8 first and second round picks over the next 2 seasons. That's you're building an entire roster with that. That's really what you're doing, and all on cheap capital from a salary cap standpoint. And then you can use free agency to build out this is how you build teams. This is the avenue to do that. If you have to waste 3 first round picks to get your quarterback, I understand you got to do it, but I don't want to do that if we have any sort of control in that being the thing. Modine says go defense in 26 and offense in 2027. So I guess that's an interesting, and I know you say you have to leave here in a few minutes. You want
to okay. We can. Yeah. You know what? I like that. I like that. Assuming the quarterbacks, even half of them return to college, because if you go defense in 2026, it doesn't mean you're neglecting the offense. It means you're spending some of that 90-some million more so on tried and true offensive pieces, which we could use at least to get this offensive performance, cleanse our palates, please. Like maybe you draft offense, we could be in store for another year like this next year. Go defense, get your bearings there. But if you're doing it, man, you got to round it completely out, have it set for a few years. And then in 2027, you're getting a quarterback, a weapon, maybe even a tight end all in the first day or 2. You're really rounding that out. Maybe you're taking a guard. Because like you said, we got 8 first and seconds. Well, in 2027, it's like, what, 5 of them, 4 of them? So yeah.
That's what they say every year, though, isn't it?
I mean,
wasn't this year Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Arch Manning?
Good point.
Those are the names we were talking about, and here we are in week 12. Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson, 2 guys that were not on the bingo card.
Nope.
But yeah, I think the Jets are in a realistic
was
world
one.
Here
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Mateer is up there too. I do like Mateer from like a moxie standpoint. I think that's something that the Jets do kind of need from like it would be nice, but I'm not using a top 5 pick, top 10 pick on him just because he has a little bit of spunk. But my biggest thing here, and I think it's something that most Jet fans need to kind of like understand, this is a realistic situation because Titans are no good. Saints are spunky. They'll probably win a couple of games, but they're also going to lose a lot more games than they're going to win. Browns look awful. Shedeur looks like crap. He looked terrible in that game. I thought Dylan Gabriel was like the worst quarterback in the league after watching him play against us. Shedeur Sanders, there's a clear reason why he hasn't played a game all season long. That was awful. But anyway, you look at the top of the draft order, and then Vegas is down there too. They look bad with Geno.
The Giants.
The Giants too, yeah, for sure. So like the Jets are really like in a situation here where I think when you look at the teams around us and above us, I think it's more realistic that we actually slide in the draft order than move up, and that's obviously for the fans kind of calling for the Jets to pick a quarterback looks scary, right? And you're talking about a situation where there's probably only 2 quarterbacks coming out, because all the speculation is that Dante Moore is going to go back. Arch Manning is going to go back, and if Arch Manning came back, I think that would be came out this year. I think it'd be silly for him. I think he needs another year. Dante Moore I could see coming out, but all the speculation is he'll return. So you got Simpson, and even he can go back too. There's an option there. True. So you're down to, let's say, let's just argument's sake, Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson come out. There's going to be about 6 or 7 spots ahead of you in the draft, and yeah, we have all the ammunition to move up. But other teams are going to look at the Jets and say, wherever they're picking, who's in front of them, and that's who we're conversating with that team. We're going to be negotiating, and the Jets are going to be a popular spot for teams to trade up, similar to the year we drafted Will McDonald, where the Jets were offensive line. Well, then all of a sudden, pick 14 became a high trade possibility area.
Telegraphed.
So, yeah, exactly. And that's the situation the Jets are going to be in, because they're going to be desperate for a quarterback. Like, it's not like it's like Justin Fields is having a promising season this year where it's like, okay, we could go with Justin Fields another year and then wait for the quarterback. They're going to be a situation where they're probably out of the quarterbacks and are going to need to pivot. And we just got to be prepared for that being a realistic expectation.
For sure. And I think I'd rather be telegraphed in 2027 with our assets there than telegraphed this year. Like, you know what? I'm with Mo. Defense, then offense later. Or if you want to just not use both firsts and turn one of them into a couple seconds, or turn one of them into another one in 2027, then come telegraph us if we have 4 first-round picks in 2027. I don't care, because we'll get whoever we want. But yeah,
figure it out at some point. But
the thing is, free agency comes first, and I expect them fully to have peppered the money around to where we won't be telegraphed, kind of like they did last year. We could go Tet McMillan, or we could go Armand Membu. We weren't, none of us were sure, and then boom, so I hope they do that again. Don't be too obvious. That's all I'm trying to say.
But at the end of the day, it'd be awesome if we could just fill out that quarterback hole and just figure it out for the next however many years.
Hey, maybe it's Brady Cook, and we can use all 5 first rounders on something else.
I would like to think, with how bad Justin Fields is playing, that even if Brady Cook had like a semblance of any sort of quarterback play in his head, that they would have figured it out by now. But
true,
who knows? Yeah. who the frig knows? All right, Dane, I appreciate you jumping on here. I know you had a long day, hopped on. I appreciate you hopping on, especially after the day you've had.
I put half a roof on today, bro.
Oh wow, damn. Yeah, so yes, you put on a roof, and then you're helping us build the Jets. So
yeah, hey, you put on a roof, and then you try to bring this team out of the basement, right?
Oh my God, it's we've been living in the basement for far too long.
Facts.
But anyway, appreciate you joining this. Dane, last thing here, just tell everybody where they can find you, for anybody that's listening to our pod.
Thank you. At DayngerZone, and that's how you spell DayngerZone. You just add a Y in the beginning, DAY, and then DayngerZone. You can find me Friday nights there with Murph. Check us out. That's probably our flagship show. But we also have Sundays now with me and Jets Chaos, getting that going. So Fridays and Sundays. But don't worry about me, man. Subscribe to at the Jets Life podcast, right? Yep. Got to get you over 103, man. You got to be at least in the 300-400s, man. As long as you've been doing this.
It's been a slow burn, but we're getting there. It's fine. At the end of the day, I just enjoy talking about the Jets, and I enjoy having people on, especially good people like you, and supporting your channel as well. So that's what it's all about. I'm actually going to have another guest on, a former guest on your show a couple weeks ago, join my show next week. So just working on that, just working on finding other Jets content creators, getting them on, and just building it off that way, because that's what it's all about. Just hearing it from different angles, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want it different ways, but listen, as miserable as it is to be a Jet fan, when it all turns around, whenever the hell that is, whether we're here, whether we're all dead when it happens, it'll be fun watching it from our graves. But it's been a lot of fun having you on today. Want to have you on again at some other point in time.
For sure.
Maybe we can have Murph on as well, and get the whole round table going. But you support the channel. You're an awesome guy. Appreciate you jumping on.
Appreciate you, man. Tell Dom that I am mildly offended that he stayed away tonight. I'll never let him live that down.
I'm mildly offended too. I don't know what the heck happened to this guy. He just ghosted me. I feel like I was getting stood up at a dinner date. On my first date with someone. I was like, I don't know if Dane's coming. I don't know if Dom's coming. I'm just sitting here, just like running out of breath, running out of oxygen. Just like,
dude, it's no. That's why I give you credit, man, because you do the solo thing quite often, and that's one thing I'm not used to yet.
It's tough.
I do it for small spells, but like the chat can help. But man, to go you waited for like an hour. I don't know how you did it, man.
Yeah, it's tough.
So kudos to you. That's the veteran channel host that can do that. So. Hey, I gotta go.
The toughest thing about it is that I was basically talking about stuff I already talked about on my Friday episode last week. So, I was like, I already recapped the Patriots game, but I guess I'll do it again. So I don't know.
Anthony, keep cooking, man. I don't know who you have next week, but if it's not the Jets Ward, you got to get linked up with him, man. He's
That's
a great
exactly who it is. It's like
dude. Thank God, man. Dude, no, I was hoping you two would get together. I think you guys would be great. I'll be here. When is it?
It'll be next Tuesday, same time.
I'll be in the chat, man. So do your thing, man. I appreciate you having me on tonight. Sure. Have a good one, man.
All right, you too, man.
Later.
Talk to you later, man. That was Dane. Awesome guy again. Appreciate him for joining the show, especially after such a crazy day. And everyone in the chat, appreciate you guys on. You've been live, Modine, killing it. I may disagree with you on the Mendoza thing, but I do respect what you're saying about Ty Simpson. I like Ty Simpson too. We'll see where it goes from here. Listen, it's going to be a crazy offseason. Let's just hope that it all works out for the team, whoever it is, whether it's Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza. At the end of the day, we just want the right guy. None of us know who that is at this point in time. That's one of the biggest crapshoots in the NFL. That's why on a yearly basis, quarterbacks get picked that everyone calls generational. Look at Trevor Lawrence. That was a can't miss prospect that obviously he's not the player we all thought he once was. But I appreciate everyone in the chat. Appreciate you all joining. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also hit up Dane's channel as well. Give him some support. He's been awesome. Always in the chat, and appreciate him for joining. And most importantly, let's go Jets.